So, welcome to Magnet Culture's Know Them, Keep Them webinar. My name is Jess Ray, and I am the workforce strategist with Magnet Culture. Cara is going to be spending about 20 to 30 minutes today sharing why you need to know your employees to keep them longer and 3 ways to start today. So be sure to stay for the entire session because we do have a very special offer at the end for each of you. Cara, let's dive in.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jess. Hello, everybody. So excited to see so many of my friends and some new faces. Well, not the faces, I guess, but the list of names today. So we are in webinar mode, which means you can't see everyone else's faces, but we still want to hear from you. So feel free to type in the chat any questions, comments, anything you want to say during this session. We would love to hear from you as well. So today we're going to focus on how to know our people a little bit better. And of course, everything we do at Magnet Culture is about retaining staff. It's about keeping the staff that we cannot afford to lose, right? We need staffing stability to provide the greatest level of quality care, quality products, quality services, and to really meet our customers' demands. So first things first, we want to start with the why. So why does it matter that we get to know our folks? Well, there's a case for this to be made in that, of course, you're going to have a better culture when you invest in that. You're going to lower turnover and get that staffing stability that you're looking for. And for many of the senior executives, the most important thing may be about that higher productivity, less mistakes, less new hires that aren't doing things quite the way we want them to do, or not reaching that highest level of quality that we are really looking for. Okay. So we've got to make that case if we want to invest in and really ensure that our group spends time knowing their people. All right. So how do we do that? I've got 3 tips today for you. It's not rocket science, but some fundamentals that maybe we haven't really focused on lately. We've been so busy, right? We get busy, and we don't have time to do some of these things. So first things first, I wanted to make sure that each of you, and I hope that you can take this back to managers at every level of your organization, to ensure that folks acknowledge we each have a unique lens. We see things differently than the way other people see things. Now, we experience this all the time, right? Because even in our personal lives, there's differences in political views, there's differences in religious views, there's just different ways of parenting. Okay, now I have a 6-year-old, and I got to tell you, every family on our block parents their kids and is raising them a little bit or a lot of bit differently than the family next door. So, of course, your upbringing has a big influence on how you see the world. Your parents, your grandparents, and then when you get in the work world, your first mentors, your first bosses are absolutely going to influence your unique lens. Now, if we think about this, in our workshops, one of the activities that we do is we will roll some dice on the table here and ask folks, what do you see? Now, at first glance, everyone around this round table at first might tell you the numbers that are on the top of those dice. And everyone at first glance seems to see the same thing. But then when we ask about their view and their perspective on those dice, what else do they see? Now, a person sitting over here is going to see different numbers on the side of the dice than the person sitting exactly in the opposite seat across the table that will see the opposite numbers on their sides of the dice. So if we think about people looking at the same exact situation, it's not just 2 sides to every coin or, the flip side of things, but really there's a 360-degree view where people sitting next to you might even see things almost identical to the way that you see things. They might have a very similar perspective because they're looking at it nearly the same way you are. But the farther around the table you get, you're going to realize that people see that same two dice very differently as to what their perspective is on that. Okay. So first things first, you have to acknowledge that you have a unique lens, that you have a unique perspective on things, and that it was absolutely molded and created based on your upbringing, your experience, and where you're positioned at the table. Okay. That literal position sometimes can make a big difference in professional and in personal life as well. Now, if you want to get to know your own lens and get to know some folks better of how were they raised and how do they see things, we just recently created a 2-minute team building worksheet. So that is at magnetvault.com. That's our secret hidden vault of all of our free resources for you. And of course, I'll give you that link again at the end of the session as well. But I'm really excited that we have this new tool of 20 questions that you can ask for 2 minutes of team building so that you can learn more about your team and they can learn about each other as well in your staff meetings, your huddles, things like that. I know we don't have a lot of time to get to know our folks, but we're going to have to find ways to squeeze that into our busy days. All right. So make sure you're acknowledging that unique lens that you have and get to know your people intentionally. All right. So what is tip number 2? We've got tip number 2 coming. That is know their stressors. All right. Know their stressors, not just your stressors. You know what your stressors are. You know what you're dealing with in the mornings before you come to work. You know what you're dealing with while you're at work. And you know what you're worried about that's going to happen after work. Okay. All those things that are going on in your head about your life, you have to realize that all of the staff also have stressors that may or may not be the same as yours, particularly what is happening outside of the workplace. And for any managers who may have been taught, by a early mentor or boss, you leave your personal hat at the door. Don't bring your drama in here. That's pretty much impossible these days, especially because almost everyone, of course, is walking around with a communication device in their pocket that makes everyone accessible all the time. So it's become even harder to separate that personal from professional time. Now, I want to bring to light some examples here that I have learned over the years as I have gotten to know different people who were raised differently and also those who just live a different life than I do. They have different stressors. All right, so find the chat box. If you haven't already found that button down at the bottom of your screen, you should have a chat. And most of you told us where you were watching from today. That's great. Okay, so I would like for you to answer this question for me. When you go to the gas pump, all right, when you go to a gas station to get some gas for your car. Now, let me get through the 3 different things before you answer here, but get your numbers ready. Okay, when you go to the gas station, are you a person that does number 1, which is you put your credit card in at the pump and don't even necessarily notice what gas prices are? You're just going to fill up your car because you went to get gas. So you put your card in and you select your grade and you fill up your gas tank. That would be number 1. Number 2 is a person that absolutely notices, whoa, gas just got a little more expensive or a lot more expensive. And so you still put your card into the tank, or sorry, not the tank, into the pump. And then you might kind of grumble a little bit or sigh, oh, man, I hate that gas prices are going up again. But you're still going to select your grade, grab the nozzle, and fill up your tank. Or are you number 3, where you take the cash that you have in hand, you take that cash inside to the gas station, and you are going to get as much gas as you can with that 10 or 20 or 40 bucks, whatever it is that you have in cash. That's how much gas you're going to get that day. So I want you to write in the chat here. We've got them coming in already. So number one is you don't even notice the price of gas. You just fill up your tank. Number two is you notice that it went up a little bit, but you're still going to fill up your tank. Or number three is that you absolutely notice the price of gas and think about, oh man, I only have 20 bucks for gas. Now, what do I have to cut elsewhere if I've got to get more gas? All right. Wowza. Okay. You guys are awesome. Great. Great, great, great. I see now, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, Jess, but I only see ones and twos on this list. Now, oh, there's a three. Okay. So we do have a couple threes coming in here, but this tells you all, I just want to bring to light that sometimes, especially if we are in management, we do not worry about some of the stressors that our frontline workers and critical, essential workers deal with every single day. All right. Now, I know that folks who are lower wage earners, they absolutely not only are sacrificing every day just because they don't have the money to pay every bill or get everything their kids need or want, but also the price of an essential item like gas, right? A non-negotiable. They have to get to and from work every day. When the price of that gas goes up, it absolutely stresses them out about how in the world, if I've got to put an extra 10 bucks in my tank just to fill to the normal amount I need for the week, where am I cutting that 10 bucks from elsewhere? Okay. Is that coming out of groceries? Am I going to be late on one of my bills? That type of thing. In 2012, I'll never forget the day I was standing at the pump. Okay. I had just put in my card, was getting the nozzle out, and this gentleman pulls up on the opposite side of my same pump. He walked into the convenience store and came out pretty quickly. I guess there was no line and he wasn't grabbing any snacks. But while I was standing there just filling up my tank, he grabbed the nozzle, put in the gas into his car, and when it clicked off, I was still filling up my tank, just standing there filling up, right? And the gentleman started screaming, not at me, just at the world. And I could see him going back and forth. 2.5 gallons, 10 bucks only gets me 2.5 gallons. How in the world am I supposed to get anywhere this week on 2.5 gallons? Right? I mean, he was just completely distraught and my heart was broken. But I was frozen. I didn't know what to do. I was very young and still not confident enough to say anything or to jump in and help. I wish I would have. And I just wasn't there mentally, right? And so this gentleman finally just, stopped yelling, got in his car and drove away. But that was so eye-opening to me because I had just put my credit card in and let it fill up. I didn't even think about that stressor that other people might be dealing with. And that was the point when gas was getting up to $3.60, I think nationally as the average. And our gas in Indiana, not even on the coast, but in Indiana had topped $4 at that point. Please be in tune with the real daily stressors of your folks. All right. So I see here that some of you are absolutely, that you have seen that, you've seen it with your folks, you've heard about it, you've watched it, right? We really need to make sure that we are not becoming disconnected from our team because we live in a little bit more comfortable world where we don't have to deal with the daily stressors of budgetary items, for example. Okay. All right. So first things first, we have to acknowledge that we have a unique lens. We see things differently than other people. And second, we've got to get to know the daily stressors and bigger stressors even of our folks. Now, an action item to take on that is, of course, possibly adjusting policies, looking at your, the attendance policies and punctuality policies, for example. Not saying that we have to be more lenient and whatnot, but I'm just saying to take a look at that and how does that impact those daily stressors and the needs of your workforce. Okay. Are we really looking at the resources that we're offering for employees? Are we giving perks that they don't care about or don't need when we could be giving them perks and rewards that are really much more valuable to them if we just adjusted where those dollars or recognition is going. Okay. Now, something else that I've seen some groups do across the country is to hold more town hall type sessions where the staff really get to talk to you about what's going on and how you can help them as an employer. Also, I've even seen groups get a social worker for their staff to help deal with childcare issues and bus routes and transportation things. You can actually think about looking at, there may be nonprofit groups in your area. I know in the Denver area, if we happen to have anyone over there, I love the company Work-Life Partnership, and they've got some offices around the country as well. But that organization, it is like a social worker that helps your staff find rent assistance or find utility assistance and grants and the childcare and transportation issues and actually go into the community and resolve the issues. If the childcare around you doesn't have great hours that fit with your schedule, then that childcare is useless to the workers that you're trying to attract and retain. So you may need to even look at the community services around you, or the same with bus routes, for example. If they don't line up with the shift times, then you may be able to go to community leaders and get some of those things switched around. All right. So yeah, Denise is here. She's a big fan of Work-Life Partnership. They've been using it for a while, and thanks to her for that introduction as well, to learn about these great resources all around the country. Okay. Awesome. So let's go on to the next tip, which is tip number 3. This is about assessments. All right. Do you really know yourself, right? We talked about your unique lens, but what about your own behavior, your own style, your own communication approach? Are you familiar with those things? First of all, is the self-awareness. Second of all, is the awareness of others having a different style. Okay. So just like the unique lens that we have, we also have different styles of communication, different personality types and behavioral types, different motivators. Some of us are motivated by very different things than others. In fact, I do a lot of work in healthcare, for example, and there are many people who are called to work in healthcare. It is a calling to them, and that is a motivator. While we see a lot more of the younger workforce, there are some folks who are called to be caregivers or nurses, for example, but a lot of folks, that's not their motivating factor. So if it's not a calling for them, what is the motivating factor? It's not just money, but other things. Do they want to be tied to a greater purpose? Do they want to make a difference? Do they want to learn and grow and gain new skills over time? There can be lots of different things that motivate people. So I am curious if you have actually assessed your leaders, your team, and really figured out, who are we? Who am I? Who are they? And most importantly, anytime you do assessments of any type like this, the next step after the self-awareness and the observation of different styles, the third step is the adjustment. When you can train your managers and supervisors on not only recognizing different styles, but then being able to adapt because those different styles are on their team, that, my friends, is where we get true upgrades in productivity, better company culture because we have less conflict, people get along, right? All kinds of benefits of those things. And of course, less people quit, less people leave because it's now a place they want to work, a boss they want to work for, and a team they want to work with. Okay. So Are you developing your managers and your leaders by making sure that they are aware of these things? Okay. Now, you don't have to just take our word for it. I did want to share a client testimonial here of a group we've been working with for years, and they continue to offer more and more training and have now done all different types of assessments. There's the DISC behavioral assessments, driving forces, which is the motivator assessments. There are competency assessments about folks, whether they have strong soft skills or not, communication skills, all those kinds of things. So I want you to hear from my friend Jordan up next.
There are so many products out there as far as personality, Briggs Myers, all this other stuff. To me, what makes a personality assessment valuable is the context that's able to be applied and shared to support the results and what creates the results and how to use the results. And I think that that's something that your guys' organization has done a fantastic job with. It's not something that you just send a link and somebody reads through the personality assessment and then moves on. Because I've done them and forgot I had even done them, to be honest with you, until I went back and did this one. So it made a lasting impact on the people that went through the process. And I think that is why we have such a good partnership and why we value what you guys have been able to provide us. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, so we have loved seeing that aha moment on their managers' faces when they realize, oh, that's why John and Shelley don't get along. That's why they just really don't click. And so once we know those different styles, can manage those folks better and do more team building so that they understand that different perspective, different style, then we were able to get much greater results from a productivity standpoint, for example, of people having less mistakes made, less conflict, less being disengaged because of the conflict, or even just losing focus and things like that. So really excited to see their success along with others as well. All right. So here's the key, friends. I just gave you kind of 3 different strategies that we can do here, but we have to make the time to do these things. All the strategies that I've mentioned so far include an aspect of knowing yourself better, knowing others better, and that's how we're going to remain really well connected with our people. Okay, we've got to focus on that really strong connection so that it doesn't become disconnected over time. But we have to take advantage of what I would call micro moments, because sometimes groups don't have time to just stop and put everybody through training. Certainly not to be able to do that with everyone all at the same time, right? Because folks have to be working. So instead, how can you insert micro moments of learning and team building into your day, into your meetings, into those interactions? I encourage you to find little times throughout your day, throughout your week, that you can still focus on learning about others and helping others learn about others as well. One thing that I have noticed quite a bit is that there are a lot of managers that think chit chat is a bad thing. And I certainly understand that we don't want excessive chit chat happening and excessive unproductive time. But please know that if we really want to have strong teams that have each other's back, for example, that care about whether someone is late or is a no-show, that folks have each other's back and don't want to leave their teammates hanging, the way to build that camaraderie and build that trust within the team is to help them get to know each other better. Okay. And so I definitely want everyone to realize that some chit chat is team building. You do want people to form friendships. I've had for my whole work career, my work friends. And I think that's a newer term just in the last, maybe 15 years, but you really want your people to think of each other as my work friends, that they get along and they tell each other what's going on and how's life and things like that. Okay. We really want to make sure that we're encouraging that. And of course, not letting it get too excessive and cause productivity problems, but don't reprimand folks for trying to become friends and to really get involved there. So awesome. Robert just suggested that the book Atomic Habits, that's a really great way as well to do that. And it falls in line with the micro moments kind of idea. Excellent. Thanks so much, Robert. All right. So beyond making time or finding the time, we do also, as an organization, have to make sure that we are investing in the time and training to do this effectively. Because for years, companies have pushed and pushed and pushed to do more with less, right? And instead, we really need to make sure that there is still time to grow, still time to build those teams. So whether it's purchasing the actual tools like assessments and whatnot, or it is just freeing up some of that time for the supervisors, for example, to be able to get to know their folks better, we have to make some investments and maybe even adjust the workloads to some extent. I know we're all crazy busy right now, but it may be time as we go into, the next few quarters here that we really reassess and possibly adjust what is critically important versus what we may be able to swap out or interchange with team building and groups getting to know one another. Okay. So we really cannot afford not to invest in our people. And we have found that the biggest bang for your buck is investing in management training, tools, coaching, making them more effective, because who has the most influence on whether people stay or go? Managers, okay? Managers at all levels, supervisors all the way up to the senior leaders. So we have to continue investing in them. All right, so your immediately actionable to-do items that we talked about today: acknowledge your unique lens. Be more aware of how you see things differently. Second, learn their stressors. Go digging, go find out what's keeping your team up at night, and make sure that you're prepared to have those conversations and support them in any way you can. And then third, assess yourself and your team. Whether you have the official tools or not, you can still take inventory, learn more about them, their styles, pick up on their preferences, the nuances of that relationship, and be able to adjust your style as you see fit once you know their style a little bit better. All right. So, as mentioned earlier, we have a bunch of free resources at magnetvault.com. Now, I saw earlier, I think a couple folks had a little bit of trouble accessing that. Sorry, there are some firewalls that think it's a crazy site. It's not, I promise. We're not fishing for anything and we have nothing bad on there, but some groups just have a really tight security on their stuff. So Maggie put another link there, magnetculture.com/magnet-vault-access. It looks like that will get you straight into the site if magnetvault.com is giving you any trouble. So really excited to have that new 2-minute team building sheet that we just built for you all, that has the 20 questions about how to get to know your team better. And then we have a special offer, don't we, Jess?
We do, yes. And I'm super excited about this one. And honestly, it's because I've seen it firsthand with clients. And so I've had the pleasure of working with different teams on how to incorporate. It's simple and affordable, and how these trainings paired with the assessments can make a huge difference in culture. So for the month of March only, we are offering all of our assessment packages at 50% off.
Woohoo! Woo!
This includes DISC, motivators, EQ, team reports, the training, and certifications where you can bring it in-house as well. So please message me on the chat if with your email address, and I'll put my email in the chat as well in a moment. If you're interested in having a conversation just to find out more information, to see if the assessments would be a good fit for you, I'm more than happy to give as much information as I need. So we'll go ahead and address any questions that we have in the chat now. Thank you all so much for your attendance. We certainly can't wait to see how some of these ideas have sparked a new culture movement for your organization, for your teams.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. I can stick around if you have any questions about what we talked about today, and reach out to Jess or myself if you want to see even just samples of all the different assessment tools and things like that. We recently certified an HR leader on DISC behaviors, the driving forces motivators, and EQ so that he can debrief and coach on those things internally inside the organization. So really excited to kind of be able to expand the reach of those things and get other folks certified as well. So I hope you got some great tips from today's session, and thank you all so much for attending. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.